Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining, and thanks for joining this webinar today on AI and data security. Well, I understand that since you're all attending, that all of you are quite well aware of the benefits of AI on one side, but probably understand that any new technology, including AI, brings also specific risks with it. And that without proper governance and security controls, well, there's definitely a risk of people using AI in the wrong way, let's say, and uploading sensitive data and documents. For example, suppose somebody uploads a highly sensitive document for review or translation to DeepSeek AI or research data that maybe later ends up then in some kind of an answer to somebody else's question because it has been used for training purposes. So to all these questions that you might have around that, our colleague Tim will give you a broad and a deep dive overview of what's in there. Feel free to post your questions on the top using the Q&A button. So whenever you have a question, post it preferably through the Q&A button on top. If we will answer those questions during the course of the presentation at the end of some specific parts that will review the questions and get back to you on that side, or maybe at the end you still have options there to post your questions to us. And therefore, I'm now giving the floor to Tim, our new fresh colleague at SecWise. We're very happy he joined us a couple of weeks ago, and he will give you a deep dive overview of AI and well, the new security risks in the era of AI at this point. Tim, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Raf. Welcome everyone this afternoon for this webinar on protecting your AI with Microsoft Purview. First, I'm going to introduce myself. For the people who don't know me, I'm Tim Hermie. I joined SecWise in January as a data and AI product owner. So my focus at SecWise is really on everything related to Microsoft Purview, to protecting your data, governing your data, but also the AI part is really important there. And you will also see in the story I will bring today that they go hand in hand together. Before I joined SecWise, I worked a little bit at Microsoft. I also was a freelance before. I used to be an MVP. I lost that title when I joined Microsoft. Something personal, maybe that's also nice. I play drums together. I like to explore the world, so I'm mostly every month or every 2 months going on a holiday or a small holiday. Since I discovered volcanoes a few years ago, I started collecting them also, like Pokemon. So I like to discover and hike on volcanoes, which I also recommend everyone. It's really nice, the nature over there, the difference in nature. And I'm a foodie, so as well as I like to cook in both ways. Before we dive into the AI part, because the title is how to protect your data with Microsoft Purview, I'm first going to give a broad overview of Microsoft Purview. So we're going to take a step back. And Microsoft Purview is part of the Microsoft portfolio. It's a separate license bundle. If you have any 5 license, you already have the complete bundle, of course. And it consists of three big pillars for me. The first big pillar is the data security triangle that we say. And it's all about securing your data. Microsoft information protection, think about sensitivity labels, think about having insights in your data. How sensitive data is found in your organization. Let's, for example, take how many Belgian social security numbers are found. This is mostly where the journey starts, or where the journey will start. You will have insights in your data, and you will protect them with a sensitivity label based on the taxonomy or the data classification scheme that you have set up in your organization. The logical next step then, once you have insights in your organization, data is data loss prevention, or how to say, where can my data go to, or where can my data not go to? And concerning AI, this is also a really important one. There are so many third-party AIs these days that you want to have some where your data goes to. So if your end users have a Copilot, M365 Copilot license, you can govern that really good. And that's also what I'm going to explain in this webinar. You can protect it, you can govern it, you can monitor it. But with data loss prevention, you can take control over third-party AI. Let's say we whitelist only what we want, and all the rest will get blacklisted. The last part of the puzzle in the data security triangle is insider risk management. And this is for me at the moment the most underrated tool in the whole Purview family. This is a tool that can easily be been set up. It only takes a few days to set this up in analytics mode, for example, and this will feed a lot of signals into Purview. In a nutshell, this product is made for monitoring user behavior and monitoring data exfiltration, but with privacy in mind. Let's say that all the usernames are not visible in the tool. We have a pseudonymization to comply with certain regulations. But if you don't know where in your data security journey, which is a discussion that I had over the last years a lot with customers. They want to do data security, but where do we start? We don't have a data classification scheme on paper. We don't have a taxonomy. We don't know which DLP policies that we are going to create. We have no scenarios yet. This tool can really accelerate. If you don't know where to start, you have the license. My advice, put this on or contact us. We can also help you with this. Put it in analytics mode, and it will give you a lot of insights in where your data flow is going to, what data is found. And based on these signals, you could, for example, accelerate both these processes. Keep that in mind. I'll come back to each of these three products later too, when we will do the mapping with Microsoft Copilot. Data lifecycle and records management. It's more about governing your data. Think about retention and deletion policies. Also, concerning Copilot is really important. You'll see that later. So it's more a module that will let you standard policies that, for example, Teams data or SharePoint data or OneDrive data needs to be held for 1 year or 2 years or whatever. But you can also create custom tags, also sort of labels. And let's think about HR or legal documents that you can give a tag so they get retained and deleted in a longer period, according to the specifications that you have from the law. So, like I said, 3 parts: data security, the government bundle, and then we have the compliance bundle. This is this part. And also here we have a link with Microsoft 365 Copilot, which will also become clear later. So that's why I'm giving this small overview. Communication compliance. Look at this as a tool of monitoring the communication of your end users, be it in Teams, be it in Viva, or be it in Copilot. And what do I mean with monitoring? There are multiple options in this tool. You can monitor for unethical behavior, for example, or for fraud, but also for who puts sensitive information in Teams to external users, for example. And you can also integrate this with Copilot. We'll go into that a little bit later too. Microsoft eDiscovery and Audit. These are tools that you will be using in a later stage, mostly a not so pleasant stage. Audit is mostly used post-breach. So when already have been breached in your organization, we have a lot of logs that we provide in Audit, a longer retention period also, so you can do some really forensic investigation with it. Microsoft eDiscovery, the same. Let's say that we have the labels in place, we have the data loss prevention policies in place, but an employee still exfiltrate data. So he downgrades some labels, for example. He bypasses the data loss prevention policies, and that's where insider risk again picks up the signals of data exfiltration. So here we can create a case of data exfiltration, and we can then use eDiscovery to get a hold of his data. Let's say a worst case scenario, you have to go to have a legal case. This is the module that will be used for that part. So you can also see that Purview, the whole framework of Purview, it really works together with all the different modules. It has a really added value. Keep that in mind. Compliance Manager is also an interesting module, maybe the less interesting one for play of the whole product. And what can you do here? You can run assessments in your organization. Let's, for example, say in this 2 assessment, and it will then tell you you are 70% or 60% technically ready to comply to that regulation, for example. But you can also use it as a project management tool, and that's the biggest benefit of Compliance Manager. You can assign tasks from Compliance Manager. So let's say that we run an assessment on NIS2, and the EU Act, the AI Act is also in there, by the way. So you can run an assessment on NIS2, and it detects, okay, you have the labels in place, you have DLP in place, but you don't have ERM in place or monitoring in place. You can then create a task, assign it to the correct team to implement it and follow up on it. So if you have an organization, you're going to be rolling out, or you want to apply, like comply to NIS2, you have a whole project starting, the PM could take use of this product, for sure. And then we have the strange duck in the pond, let's say. It's Microsoft Priva, because I said that the whole bundle is inside E5 or inside the compliance license. This is an additional license. You should also keep it in mind. It's also a little bit an undervalued tool or an underrated tool, because it's a bit a combination of EPM inside the risk, but mostly focused on GDPR and on personal data. It will give you insights in oversharing of personal data, data transfers of personal data, and also if you have to have a process of data subject right requests, and you work solely in the Microsoft Cloud, for example, you solely work in the M365 stack, create a data subject right request there that will crawl in the data and find everything that you need. That's also possible. But let's now dive into the AI topic. Keep in mind all those pieces that I mentioned, they will all come back in a later stage when we do the link from Purview to AI. I will show you the capabilities. I will show you the advantages that I'll give you some best practices too, but they are all related to the whole stack that I just mentioned to you now. First, a nice statistic to show, and it's always nice to see this. In 2022, 3 years ago already, first released. And if you see at the threshold here, it took 16 years to have 100 million users who were using smartphones. So it was a really long time before everyone was into that part. The same for internet, it took 7 years. But if you look at ChatGPT, it got released in 2022. Months, we already reached the threshold of 100 million users. So it's clear that AI is a hot topic these days, generative AI, and it's also here to stay. And a lot of companies, and also Microsoft, is focusing heavily on it. Personally, I'm also a big user of M365 Copilot. It boosts your productivity. If you know how to use it, it can really help you with your work and give you some more freedom and take some work away from you. It won't do the work for you, but it will help you. I look at it as my personal assistant that I have, that I can always ask questions to help me. It's important to know that the technology is here and it's really booming at the moment. But of course, with AI, there are also associated risks. And the risks, you can tackle them or you can take them as you want. What are organizations at the moment struggling a lot with? Lack of controls to detect what is happening with AI, or with third-party AI. There are so many third-party AI sites, and trust me, from the audits and assessments that I have done at customers, they are being used, and sensitive information is being put in those AIs. So they need to be governed, they need to be monitored, and they need to be followed up. The lack of controls, a lot of organizations don't have the knowledge or don't have controls in place to protect data that is being shared in AI. And of course, we also have the increased regulatory pressure, because there will be an AI Act and that we have to apply to or comply to. But what are then the security concerns associated with AI usage? We have 3 of them here. Let me just go further immediately. Data leaks. A user may inadvertently, unintentionally or intentionally leak sensitive data into AI apps. Think ChatGPT, Google Bard, Copilot. So this is a concern. This is one of the big concerns that there are at the moment. And we will give you solutions to all of these concerns later too. The second one, data oversharing. So users might attempt to access sensitive information, such as confidential projects or personal data through AI apps like Copilot. But without the appropriate data security controls, these AI apps could, of course, gain access to it, summarize it, or create content on it based on that sensitive data, which again increases the risks of data overexposure and of oversharing. And then we have the third part, and that is non-compliance usage. A lot of end users could use AI to do something fraudulent, for example, or to manipulate stuff, or stop manipulation, or think of whatever you want. We will dive into these three pillars also. So I build it out in three pillars that we're going to dive deeply into now. First of all, unparalleled visibility. How can we have insights in our AI usage? What are our end users doing with AI? What are they putting in there? How are they using it? The second part, comprehensive protection. How can we protect it then? How can we make sure that sensitive data only gets put in Copilot with the people who have rights on it? That sensitive data doesn't get out of Copilot to people who don't have rights on it, for example. A lot of possibilities here. And compliance control, how can we make sure that we meet our business and regulatory requirements? We'll dive into those three topics now. First of all, unparalleled visibility. We're going to start with an example again. Let me forward it. Data leak. So we have a high-risk user who leaks sensitive data into ChatGPT, into an AI app. And trust me, this can be any AI app. How can we get insights in this? And this is again where Microsoft Purview comes into play. The whole bundle together with each of the sub-pillars that I talked about before, you can reach a certain level of protection that gives a sort of safety about using AI. It will give you insights in it, but it's not only the protection that's important, it's also the governing and the following up. But we will dive into that. So first of all, data security posture management for AI, which was previously called AI Hub. So for people who haven't heard of this before, AI Hub was the previous name, is a part of Purview, which will give you insight. Depending on the license, you will have more options the SPM for AI. If you have E3, you have a little less options, E5 a little less more. I will talk about it a little bit more too. So first of all, we will get insights with the product. What is happening? I will show you some screenshots soon too. The second stage, of course, is from those insights, we can create policies. Think about data loss prevention, that we will prevent sensitive data being copied and pasted or uploaded to apps like ChatGPT, for example. Or in a first phase, we won't block it, but we will audit it and educate our end users. It's all possible. And then if you go in a further stage, we can make that policy, for example, user risk adaptive. A feature called adaptive protection in Microsoft Purview. That's a feature of insider risk. Remember I said it is the most undervalued tool of Purview, which will give your users a risk score based on their behavior. A simple example here about adaptive protection. If an end user someday gives in his resignation, it can be synced. So for example, your end user has a low score, but he gives in his resignation, it gets synced with Microsoft Purview Insider Risk Manager, and his risk score can go to high. If that end user then tries to exfiltrate data, let's say he downloads 50 files from SharePoint, he downgrades the label, he bypasses the policies, he puts it on a USB stick or whatever he wants it to exfiltrate it or print it, and he then deletes it. It's a certain visible sequence of data exfiltration. This won't be possible with adaptive protection because his risk score got boosted from low to high, which means that in the data loss prevention policy, everything here will get blocked. Also keep in mind, this is something that I tell all my customers, and I'm going to go back here for one more second before we dive into DSPM for AI. You can have so many controls in place that you reach a certain level of security, let's say 99%, but or 95%, and it's just a fictive number that I'm making up, but you can never have full control or full protection. Keep that in mind. There is always a risk that you have to accept. For me, the most important part here is because you can do so many great things with Purview. You can have the labeling, the data loss prevention inside the risk, but you can also make it your end users hard to work with. As hard as you want how you configure it. Most important part for me about this whole product here is that you have an audit trace. You have you have logs, you have insights on what happened. And that's also again where inside the risk manager comes in a little bit. There will always be ways to exfiltrate data. But you have to, once something happens, or once something gets data, exfiltrates it, and really critical data, and let's say worst case scenario, you need to go to court, you need to have proof that something happened. This is the most important part of the whole tool here. If you set it up right, you will have proof. Now let's dive in data security posture management for AI. Also a really good tool if you don't know where to start with AI. It's standard in Purview these days. The difference with E3 and E5 is the data assessments. It's only possible in an E5 license. But I'm also aware that they are still looking at the licensing model at Microsoft. So it may change in the future too. Now, what does data security posture management for AI do? It will give us insights in AI, not only in the usage of Copilot, but also in third-party AI. It will show you how many sensitive information types or sensitive files are being put in those third-party AI. And this is also a tool, if you don't know where to start, you want to have insights on AI usage, just enable it. It's easy to enable it. It's 5 minutes of work. You just have to deploy a plugin to Edge to have all the data in there for AI usage. Let it run for a while, and you can then build your AI protection plan and use this tool to create your data loss prevention policies on paper, translate them to technical policies. Let's now look a little bit at what this tool can do. Like I said, it will give you insights. It will give you various reports which you can then open, which will give you more insights and give you results. One of the one of the greatest things SPM for AI at the moment, but this is the part of E5, is the assessments. You can run assessments. What is the biggest problem that has come up with the customers I've worked with the last 2 years when using Microsoft 365 Copilot is that they notice when they implement Copilot that it brings up too much sensitive information because there are less governance before. Their team site, they had too much team sites who were widely open, documents who were widely overshared. So that's one of the first things that you want to tackle. It's one of the foundations before using Copilot, making sure that your data governance is a little bit okay. And this tool can really boost this. It will run an assessment in SharePoint. And you per SharePoint site, how many files are found, how many users access these files, but more importantly, this part here, how many are shared externally, how many are shared organization-wide or shared with anyone. So you will have insights in the SharePoint sites which are problematic, but you can then talk to the SharePoint site owners to do reviews, for example, but you can also use this tool to go a little bit further. Let's say we want to look at this site, Obsidian Mercer, you can click on it. It will again give you a few options. First of all, you have the overview, you have protect, and you have monitor. So you can see here so many sites in one site. 50% is labeled, 50% is not labeled, did have sensitive information types, everything is a little bit in there. If we then look at monitor, for example, you can see so many files are shared with anyone, so many are shared externally, and so many are shared organizational-wide. So let's say this is a site, Obsidian Merger, in our example, which contains sensitive information, because we are talking about a merger here. So only a certain amount of people need to have access to this SharePoint site. But also from this tool out, you can immediately take actions. Let's say we want to do a SharePoint site access review, see who really needs to be in there. And if you click on this, it will continue in the wizard to start that access review. Or if you want to run a Entra ID user access review, you can also start it from here. Also important, the protect tab. Let's say we want to protect some stuff. We know that this site contains all sensitive information. So you could say, I'm going to restrict access by label, restrict all sites. You can see how many labels are found in this site, how many labels are referenced by Copilot. You can immediately here create a sensitivity label to put on the whole SharePoint library, so that the whole library get protected with one label, all documents in there. Create the default sensitivity label, and the options, you have a few more options there. You can create a data loss prevention tool also from here, that the data that is in that site doesn't get crawled by Copilot, for example. So in this scenario, in this example, we know Obsidian Merger, SharePoint site, contains only information. So in theory, we just want all that information that has a label, Obsidian Merger, for example, not to be inspected by Copilot, which is also possible then. We will say content contains sensitivity label Obsidian Merger, and it will create a data loss prevention policy straight from the DSPM for AI tool. The data loss prevention policy will restrict processing of that label for Copilot. So from here, you can take action, you can have insights, and you can have next steps. What is good to have as a summary for this product, know that there is a difference in license at the moment. It will give you more or less options depending on which license you have. Most important thing, if you don't know where to start, and with both licenses, it will really give you insights, not only in Copilot usage, but also in third-party AI usage. The second big pillar we're going to talk about is a comprehensive protection. So how can we now protect this? What is the integration? And I'm mostly going to show you print screens of the integration. So once certain things have been set up, once you have the sensitivity labels in place, you have data loss prevention in place, and all the tools, it will give you a benefit when using Copilot. And I'm going to show you the advantages, but know that there is work before you get those advantages. The first one here, and you can see it's a small video that's running, awareness of sensitivity labels as users draft with Copilot. So you can see here using Copilot, and we are telling Copilot, please write me a summary from Contoso purchasing permissions .docx from a document. And Copilot immediately says, and you can see that here, that the document that you are referring to contains sensitive information. So depending on if I have right document, it will accept your request or not. Yeah. But it goes a little bit further. Sensitivity labels are also visible in Copilot chat. So let's say that we are using Copilot chat. You can see here again, we ask Copilot, please summarize Ignite Tech Talks, the summarization, but it will then say here at the reference, it comes from this file, and you can see here under, it has this label. So if you have the sensitivity label set up, if you have your structure set up, let's think about public, internal, confidential, highly confidential, or whatever your data classification scheme will be, the integration with Copilot will be there. But there's also the advantage that if someone will ask Copilot about a sensitive information file, and he doesn't have rights to read that label, because it's encrypted and he doesn't have the right to read it, it will also not be able to show up there. So it's I wouldn't say a prerequisite. You can really use Copilot without having labeling in place, but it's a track that you should start as soon as possible, in my opinion. The good example with the labeling is that we have so many flexibility these days. For me, it's more important to start with the oversharing dashboard, the insights on which AIs have been used to put third-party, to put sensitive information, for example, that you build your classification scheme even together when rolling out Copilot, but that you already will protect your highly sensitive SharePoint sites, for example. You will put a label on the site and protect it anyway. I'll talk about it later also. Copilot conversations, they inherit the sensitivity label of a referenced file. So if you are talking Copilot, and you are talking about sensitive information, summarizing sensitive information, also your chat will become confidential. So it will, yeah, it will, how do you say that nicely? Yeah, it will go through. So even though you're talking about sensitive information, your Copilot chat will also get that tag. So the document is confidential, all employees. Of course, because we are talking about it, this also gets restricted as confidential, all employees. Auto-labeling policies will apply to Copilot-generated content. Let's say that we have auto-labeling policies in place. People who don't know what an auto-labeling policy is, let's say that we create a document that we are writing, and then we write down a social security number, and we have an auto-labeling policy that will apply a label when it detects a social security number. That's how auto-labeling works. So here you can see we are asking Copilot to generate us. It will generate us content, but certain words will be detected that are for the organization confidential or highly confidential. And the auto-labeling policy will then kick in, and it will here say, due to the content created by Copilot and the sensitivity that is detected in that document, will automatically apply confidential anyone. Also, again, the integration with Microsoft Purview information protection here and Copilot. I already mentioned this a little bit. Microsoft Copilot for M365, it honors the rights management control associated with sensitivity labels. The sensitivity label that is called Project Obsidian. All the documents about the merger with Project Obsidian get this sensitivity label. And in the sensitivity label, we have configured it that only 3 people have access to it. It's encrypted. Let's say that employee X here asks, he has no rights on it because he is not in the configuration. He cannot read it because it's encrypted. And Copilot will immediately also say, sorry, I can't find anything because he doesn't have the rights on it. So also here again, the integration with Purview information protection, Azure Rights Management, the encryption label, and Copilot for 365. The data loss prevention policies, also a really big one. You don't want your sensitive information to be put in a third-party AI tool. Think about Bart, think about ChatGPT, think about DeepSeek. There are hundreds of them these days. You can see here that in the back, the user has a document open with a sensitivity label, Project Obsidian. So we're talking about the merger again. So that's the sensitive information. And he tries to put it here or copy it here, and it will get blocked. This is the same example. So again, we have the document open. You can see here it's confidential, Project Obsidian. We are copying text. We are trying to paste it in a Google Bart. See paste. And of course, data loss prevention will kick in again. And then we have the compliance control. So on the one side, you have the protection part. So the data, everything concerning the data protection part or the data security part that I'm saying. On the other hand, controls, because it's not only about protecting everything and protecting your Copilot and protecting all your data and making sure that it's safe. They also have some other tools that you can use to see that the users are using Copilot ethically, for example, that they are not using it to manipulate fraud or manipulate stock or whatever the hell they want to do. A few questions in the chat.
I don't know it's, but I think you will cover that at the end of the presentation also.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
how to start the journey and so on. I think that is
Yep,
probably
that's
will
what
be
I cover in
covered.
the end.
Yeah, and then does it also work for
Thomas.
non-edge browsers? Can you dive into that?
Yeah, so data loss prevention, data loss prevention, it works for non-edge browsers too, till a certain level. So we have Edge, which is fully supported, of course, and we have fully control over it, over the visibility. We support Chrome and Firefox. But you need to install the Purview extension then in those two browsers. And the browsers that we can, let's for example, create a data loss prevention policy that if they use Brave, it's another sort of browser, that it will get blocked immediately because the browser is not supported, and we will then send them to Edge to do the operation, for example, to have control over there. So in a way, are all browsers supported? No, but also yes, because you can whitelist and blacklist browsers, and we can control 3 browsers. So you can keep proper control over it. Okay. So non-compliant usage. Users use Copilot to generate non-compliant content that can result in investigation or litigation. And for me, this is a little bit the third part in the journey. It's not only about first having insights in your AI usage, and then based on those insights, creating your policies or creating your next steps or creating your roadmap of implementation. It's also about monitoring the usage. It's also really important. And how can we do that? Again, we have a few tools that I already mentioned, communication compliance, data lifecycle management, audit, and e-discovery. We can use those tools to monitor and be compliant to what we need to be. And I'm going to give an example immediately about all of these tools. First, data lifecycle management. Copilot chats, they get stored somewhere. So the longer that you keep them, the more that they can be reused or infiltrated. And it's one of the basic steps for me, and one of the first steps that you should do is you will create a data lifecycle management or retention policy that you will only retain this data from Copilot and your end users for an amount of months or year or weeks, like whatever you want in your organization, but you will not keep it indefinitely. This is one of the first things that can be done, and is also a really quick win. In case something happens, and let's say a tool picks something up, audit, I also told about the audit logs. With Audit Premium, you have logs for 1 year, so you can dive deeper into the logs for a longer of time. And you have certain logs with activities that you can dive into. And we also have added an activity, or Microsoft has added an activity interacted with Copilot that you will give you insights on what your people are interacting with Copilot and how they are interacting with it. You cannot really do deep investigations in here in this with this bundle, because it will ask you to dive deeper into e-discovery then, but they also work together. But you see the Copilot interactions from your end user and Copilot. Communication compliance, this is really a quick one also set up pretty fast. Like I said, communication compliance, you can monitor for unethical behavior, for sensitive information that is being put in Copilot. And it's not only Copilot and communication compliance. Think about Teams too. Another use case of communication compliance, for example, that I mentioned to a lot of customers before, is schools, for example. As schools were at some point years ago reluctant to use Teams because of bullying, virtual bullying of the students. And you can also monitor it with communication compliance, for example. Another use case where they use communication compliance a lot is in the banking sector, the financial sector, that they will want to monitor who is transferring IBAN numbers, Visa numbers, or a large amount of sensitive information through Teams, for example. It's purely monitoring. But also for Copilot, it can monitor and detect non-compliant content. In this example, in the print screen, for example, you can see, can you show me all the reasons and analysis to make Contoso a weak stock? So stock manipulation, Copilot will of course answer that, but you want to have insights on what is happening and who is putting what into Copilot. Communication compliance, like I said, you can create different levels of policies, threat, harassment, stock manipulation, all those things. Bullying is also in there, but of course, sensitive information types are also in there. So you can monitor on who is asking Copilot about sensitive information, for example. So here you can see They used Copilot and BizChat, and they are asking, what are the latest files on Project Obsidian? So they know this is a secret project, and they are trying to see if Copilot can give them the answers. So you can also monitor this. Up. See? And then we have e-discovery, and this is always the the last stage. If a hacker gets in, or if an end user exfiltrates data, this is a tool where you can dive deeply into that data. You can do a con on the end user his data to see whatever he did. But also, if he exfiltrates data and you want the proof of it, you can take a legislation hold um, on his data, for example. If you ever need to go to court, let's hope that we don't go that far. But this tool is also there to help you. So a quick recap. Purview, the complete framework here. Information protection. Think about sensitivity labeling, but also think about having insights in your organization. This also can help you if you don't know where to start. You just put it on, give your end user the license, and it will give you, after 96 hours, a good dashboard on what sensitive information is found in your organization, which can also help you boost the process. But also here, what is important to remember, the integration with Copilot. Labeling setup, if you have your labeling structure, Copilot will inherit it. It will also take use of it. Think about the chat that inherits it. Think about the references that you ask about, the new documents that created, and that will get the same label. It's a really nice integration. Data loss prevention. Also, if you don't know where to start and your devices are onboarded in Defender for endpoints, you can have a lot of insights in what is happening. If you don't know where to start, I don't know what policies do I want. That's mostly how we go in with clients. We turn it on, we let it run for 1 month, and then we will have statistics for next steps, and we can create a roadmap. But also here, good to remember the integration with Copilot. Either the integration with putting it in third-party AI, or the integration with data loss prevention and Copilot for 365, where we, for example, restrict Copilot for crawling through a certain site kind of label. It's also possible. Inside the risk manager, like I said, most important thing here to remember, most underrated tool, easily set up, and it can boost your whole business process or your business scheme, how you say it, your business process to start the journey. I don't know where to start here. I don't know where to start here. Just enable this, let it run for weeks. You will have a lot of insights. Data lifecycle management, the integration here is the retaining of the logs and the deletion. Also important. Communication compliance, think about the monitoring again, to monitoring the end user's behavior. And these are last resorts, like I already said, more audit logs and e-discovery legislation hold. What is for me the clue or the most important thing that you need to remember from this webinar? Let your end users use AI. It will boost their productivity, but you need to protect your data, and you need to secure your AI, and you need to also govern your AI. At SecWise, we have a data protection readiness assessment where we will do a quick scan of your environment to see if you are ready for Copilot. This can be done if you are already using Copilot or if you still want to start it. It doesn't really matter. It's an assessment that we do for 1 day, and you will have a roadmap and a whole executive support with our advice on what you need to implement, how to implement it, and we also have a program that implements it in 10 days, for example. We can kickstart that journey for sure. So how does it look like, or what do we do, for example? We will check your data loss prevention policies. Do you have any? Are they configured well? Are they scoped well? We will really check everything. Information protection too, based on your license, we will see, do you have labels in place? Are they used properly? Are you using container labels? Are you using them on SharePoint sites? It's all in here. Data lifecycle management. Do you at least have a policy for your Copilot chats in place, for example? We will check communication compliance. We will check all the things that I mentioned before that are important are in this assessment, and we will check them. What is the outcome? You will have an executive summary with the risks that you have at the moment, the key findings, and the benefits if you implement it. We will then dive a little bit deeper in it. We will look at your data exposure, top the data found in SharePoint, in OneDrive, Exchange, SharePoint, OneDrive, and Teams. We will put some numbers on there. We will give you some advice. We will then dive per topic in what we have found. For example, here at the customer, we have a high risk level for Copilot with data loss prevention policy because they one policy configured, or it's badly configured because they have a policy and only HR has it deployed. We will look at the affected workloads, see if they are deployed over all workloads. We will give you a recommendation and also why it's necessary. And this we will do for each pillar. For example, here too, the LP, not in these workloads, we will recommend you what to do and why to do it. And at the end of the assessment, we will give you a conclusion. What is your risk level for activation of Copilot? High. We will give you a roadmap with how to implement it. And afterwards, we have a program of, depending on how much in the assessment, from 7 to 10 days to boost or to boost your deployment of this whole part regarding data security for Copilot. And that's it for me. I think I'm right on time with the 45 minutes, so we have some time for Q&A. If there are more questions.
Hey, thanks, Tim. Very interesting. Right now, I haven't seen any new questions in the last part, so everything must be totally clear. Thanks for that. Maybe a quick question from my side. So for deploying the technologies and then using and relying on the reports and everything, to what extent do you have to rely on the fact that the peoples or the users are forced to use a managed device that is controlled by your organization, so you can make sure that you have visibility also on there, or is it more like you can do it more only identity based, or do you really also need an insight on what's happening on the endpoint itself and link the user to those endpoints?
Yeah, I think it's the whole zero trust framework comes into place here with this question, but it's a really good question, Rob. How can I say this easily? Yeah, as they presented zero trust, when it one came up, when we heard about zero trust, they presented it as a layered model with devices, applications, and your data was at the bottom. I know that Gartner did a study and they came up with the zero trust extended framework, where they are more looking at it as pillars. So you had an identity pillar, a devices pillar, and you had 4 pillars like this, and they put the data pillar in the middle. And why is this important? Because of course, zero trust is still important, and you still need to protect your devices. You still need to have conditional access for your end users. They are basic controls. But why did they put it in pillars and not in layers anymore? Because the pillar in the middle, the data security pillar, everything that we set up at zero trust, MFA, phishing resistant, conditional device management, security baselines, and rolling in EDR, it has only one target in the end, and it's protecting that pot of gold, that pot of data that's in the middle. So of course you have to have your basic controls in place, your basic identity in place, your security baselines. It will only help. And for me, this is the last part of the data security journey, where we will also put some security measures on the data or on accessing the data. I don't know if this answered your question, Raf.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for that. There's another question. So there's from Hunt. So if you don't have auto labeling, so if you're depending on people doing manual labeling, but well, sometimes people are somewhat reluctant on placing labels or maybe not doing that correctly. So will this work if people are not labeling documents correctly? Is that an issue if you don't have that in place?
Yeah, the auto labeling is nice to have, but in the truth or in the experience that I have with companies are using the auto labeling. We are mostly using our end users to label it. So what is important here for me it has to be set up right. And I'm going to give you an example. Let's say that you have a company and you have a label classification scheme of 3 levels, let's say. I'm just going to take my big, let's say we have public, internal, confidential, and secret. And when a new document gets created, the public label gets attached automatically. That's already one mistake. As you have to look at what is my data estate. Probably most of it will be internal, which you can then already put restriction zones with data loss prevention. So your default label should be internal. There are a lot of factors in place here that can help your end users. You can also not use auto labeling, for example, but there is also something else that is called recommended labeling, which is a feature I do recommend. Auto labeling is a bit tricky because really easily misclassify your document or classify it too much that they have to downgrade their label too much. But the recommended labeling is really interesting. I'm going to give an example again. Let's say an end user is typing a document and he types a social security number or a bank account number. Instead of automatically applying the label, we will give a tip that says, hey, sensitive information is found. Please use the following labels, and it can be 1 or 2, for example. This is a bit the adoption part.
Mm-hmm.
Also, the labeling, the correct labeling of your end users is really dependent on your label structure or your data classification scheme. I have companies with the data classification scheme of 10 levels. No one will use the correct level anymore. For me, it's always black and white. It can be shared or it cannot be shared. So less is more. Keep your labels not too big, not too extended. And also you have to, there is some user adoption. You have to have some user awareness that they will create it right. Otherwise, they will always pick the first choice, the default label, and not change it, for example.
Yeah. Okay, clear. Thank you. Any other questions? Time to post now. Otherwise, we'll end the session.
And you can always contact me on LinkedIn or on whatever social tool if you want to have a talk with us.
Definitely.
It's not an issue.
Yeah. Okay, good. So do get in touch with us if you're interested also in our assistance in doing this and making this journey. This is a great assessment that Tim has worked out in the last weeks and that we can just kickstart from now on at anybody who wants it. So thanks a lot, Tim, for the good overview and the deep dive overview of what we can do and with Purview in terms of AI. Hot topic for everybody, I guess, and let's follow up on that in the coming months. Thanks all of you for attending, and hopefully we'll see you in one of our next upcoming webinars. This will definitely make clear to you when they arrive and what the topics are about and so on. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you.